Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Two Guys Talking Sports. It's our college edition, and I'm going to try not to overreact to this South Carolina loss to Georgia.
Is it a good thing to, I guess, have a positive outlook over like a moral victory?
Well, I don't like calling them moral victories, but you can definitely take a lot of positives out from a loss.
I think anytime we were almost a 5-touchdown underdog, 27.5 points, 10-point loss. I mean, there's a lot of positives to take out.
There was a lot of positives. The biggest thing for me was the line played well for especially what they're going up against.
Mm-hmm.
The first half they played stellar. They didn't play terrible in the second half. We had 3 sacks, I think, but a lot of that came at towards the end of the game when they knew that we were passing, they knew that we were having to try and stretch the field, and so they just dropped back and then.
And I think it shows the type of recruiting we've done because, our starting left tackle was a true freshman.
Right.
So I think that shows it sucks looking at it now because it's so it's tough to see it happening. But with the class we had come in this year and then the class coming in next year, I think the offensive line will be okay.
Yeah, the offensive line, and they're getting better now. Like I said, it's a positive that you can take. Spencer Rattler still looked good.
Mm-hmm.
He did have 2 interceptions, but again, those were garbage time interceptions when they were just basically playing, dropping back, and just knowing that we had to pass and pass deep.
And like you said, when you don't really have a run game and you're having to pass it 42 times, and you're trying to make a play,
right?
And you instead of at the beginning of the game, sometimes you can take those little dink and dunk passes,
right?
But when you're down 10, haven't been able to score, you're just going to try to force some balls, and fortunately, that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, that's still a lot of positives to take. Line played well. Rattler still is playing well. The defense played, I thought, extremely well for what they were going up against. They gave up 3 points in the first half. Yeah, they gave up 2 back-to-back touchdowns coming out of the half, but then after that, they didn't give up anything. After those 2 touchdowns,
They scored their points all in the third quarter. Didn't score any in the fourth quarter.
Exactly,
which I think like I said is a sign that maybe we did overreact a little bit after the North Carolina game, which it's easy to do.
Yeah.
When you kind of play as poorly as they did.
And again, I still think if you flip that Furman and North Carolina game, South Carolina probably beats North Carolina. I don't think that North Carolina is head and shoulders better than us.
No.
And South Carolina showed that yesterday. They could have easily won that game.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that hurt us is we can't run the ball. When you're up 14-3 and you need to extend drives and kind of burn some clock, and you don't have the ability to do that. And a lot of that is that for some reason they're still boneheaded about playing Joyner as the feature back.
Yeah.
And he's a great player, great athlete.
Yeah.
In all other areas of the field, he's great, but he just doesn't have that running back vision.
Yeah, we are 8th. We are ranked 8th nationally in the passing game, 130th in rushing offense after 3 games.
Completely imbalanced.
And and Beamer even said this in his post-game press conference. He's like, not a lot of teams run the ball well against this defense. But
we haven't ran it well.
But our leading rusher yesterday was Spencer Rattler.
Right.
And those were off scramble plays.
Yeah.
DeCarrion Joyner had 5 rushing attempts for 10 yards. Mario Anderson, 2 rushes for 9 yards. I don't care how good your quarterback is, but if you can't get a ground game established, it's going to be maybe not a long season, but that's not a recipe for success to be a successful offense.
It's one thing if your offense is throwing the ball a lot and you're scoring 5-6 touchdowns a game.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're throwing it well enough to move the ball, but then you kind of stall out because eventually they just play back. Mm-hmm. There's no threat to run the ball at all.
Yeah.
It's hard to throw the ball all game long.
Yeah.
Especially when the defense knows that's what you're going to do.
And I feel like we passed the ball majority of the time in the second half.
Yeah. We passed the ball the majority of the time in the first half. Mm-hmm. We basically just used – and it was a good game plan coming in. We knew that we can run the ball consistently well.
Yeah.
So we did the short – passes is basically just an extension of the run game.
Yeah.
And that was working, but then, again, defense adjusts to that and shuts that down.
Yeah.
You got to continually adjust, and when you can't run the ball at all, that just takes that whole aspect of the game out.
Yeah. And major credit to our receiving team because Juice Wells going out after the first touchdown, which I think his foot injury is just way worse than what we thought.
It's a broken bone.
And I think Beamer even said at halftime he already has a screw in there, so it's kind of protecting it. But at the same time, it's clearly he's not 100%.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, it's tough because, like I said, he has that screw in there that's protecting it. It allows him to kind of play.
Yeah.
But I think it's better to just sit him out 2 or 3 weeks, let that thing heal up.
Yeah.
And then, come back for the second half of the season, because it's not helping us now when you try and factor him into the game plan and then he's there for 3 plays and then he's out for the rest of the game. That's tough.
And apparently, I just, and you were texting me this yesterday, I don't think Nicholas Harbor is very skilled on the offensive side of the ball, because apparently he's still learning that position. And I think his main position in high school is on defense.
Right, it was.
So I mean, I'm assuming that's why we don't really see him on the offensive side of the ball. In high school, he only
came on to playing tight end there towards the end of his high school career, and I think it was more of just him wanting to score and things like. I mean, he's not going to take as much of a beating playing offense, especially when he does have a secondary career, with track, and he's damn good at that. So I mean, he's going to want to continue to do that. So I think the tight end thing is more of him protecting himself a little bit too. But and he's still learning.
And they're teaching him position. I mean, I think he can catch the ball, but it's like, okay, is he running a route correctly? Can he block?
Right.
I mean, because he's going to be a tight end, or on the
Jaheim Bell type of player is basically what he is. A faster version of that, I believe.
What do you think about the environment at Sanford Stadium yesterday?
Oh, it was electric. It had to be after what.
How insecure of a coach do you have to be for and this is, I wouldn't even put this on Kirby Smart, for that reporter to hold on to that clip for over 2 months when he didn't even mention Georgia.
Right.
They asked him verbatim, what are the toughest places you've played at, or the loudest places you've played at, paraphrasing. And he mentioned Texas A&M and Tennessee. That's it. He didn't say anything bad about
He just
Georgia.
didn't mention Georgia. Just to him personally, those 2 other places are the places that he considered tougher to play.
And the Georgia's fan base is very similar to Clemson's. They are very, we're going to get hate for this, I'm sure. But it's like, if you have to take a clip that doesn't even exist to try to motivate your fan base to come out. And like, I get it. You're the number 1 team. You haven't lost there in over 2 years. We were the last team to beat them at home.
Right.
And I know not every game is going to be, show up on the Richter scale, when you're playing an inferior opponent. But if you have to try to drum up some kind of controversy like this to try to get your fan base to show up, maybe it's not that tough of a place to play at.
It's one of those things that Dabo, he hasn't done it as much here recently, but when they were at that peak of what they were, he would do the same thing. He would take one little thing and, oh, poor little Clemson, nobody respects us. Everybody respects you, dude.
Yeah.
You're just, and I get it, sometimes you got to keep your players motivated, I guess. But
and I mean, that's what good coaches do.
If they're an elite team and you're the number 1 team in the nation, you don't have to come up with stuff to, hype your players up or your fan base up. They should want to do it just because it is what it is.
Yeah. I don't know. I when you have reporters, and I don't know who the guy is, but he writes for some fan site.
Right.
But like trashing Tonka Hemingway, like who names their child Tonka anyways? It's just like they were coming after this kid for he didn't even do anything wrong.
Right.
And like I'm curious if Beamer even said anything to it, because that would have royally pissed me off. Because you don't see coaches name players like that.
That was a big thing for me.
If anything, it's a positive thing. Like, Spencer Rattler at the end of the day, he was just too dang good. We couldn't stop him. But for him to like name out Tonka and say, oh, he called out our fans, he didn't even mention your school.
Right. That was a big thing for me. It's like, all right, it's one thing to take the clip and spin it however you want to spin it.
Yeah.
But the fact that Kirby Smart then took it a step further to say, oh, Tonka said this about us, so I guess our fans will have to come out and show Tonka, what they can do. Like, wow, what's the point of first of all, it was stupid to even bring that up.
Yeah. And
second of all, to like specifically point out a kid in a negative context. Just to hype your fan base up. I mean, it was
soft.
Just way too much for me.
They're an insecure fan base, and they're all. And I think Athens is a good city,
right?
But I mean, I wasn't overly impressed when I went there. And that's okay. Like not every stadium is designed to be this loud place that just it makes it a tough place to play. And I'm not saying that it's not, but it clearly I didn't think it seemed to affect our guys yesterday.
Nah, not at all. I think
just weren't the better team.
They're towards the No, I'm not saying that we aren't they're obviously better than us, but I think another thing is the depth. Like they aren't rebuilding.
Yeah.
No matter what, Beamer's had 2 good years. Where he's overachieved for sure, and so people already have it in our mind, like, all right, well, we got to win more games, but we're still in the middle of a rebuild. Like, these are still players that some of them he did not recruit.
Yeah.
So he's at the end of the day, it's still a rebuild, and you're facing a team that's not. They're back-to-back, national champions, and the players that they do lose, they just have somebody already ready to step in.
Yeah.
The depth. That's really what showed up in the second half.
And I think another thing it showed yesterday, I don't think there's like a clear-cut number 1 team in the country.
No, I don't
either. And I think it just goes to show how good Stetson Bennett was.
Yeah.
Like Carson Beck that offense did not look that dynamic yesterday. No, there's nothing that stuck out where and even on their defensive side, they're not, I don't think they're as good as they have been in years past.
No, specifically on the line, because I thought that they would definitely dominate us on the line. The fact that we only gave up 3 sacks to them, when we gave up 9 in the first week, and like you said, now we're even playing a true freshman at tackle, and had to replace the other tackle as well. There's clearly not a true number 1 team in the nation.
And I know Beamer even said they added a lot around our offensive line to help with the blocking, but I mean you have to be, I guess, optimistic.
You definitely did see a lot more of the chip blocks from the tight ends. Trey Knox was, constantly before he would go out, just give him one little bump.
Yeah.
And we talked about it in the first week, that's what you got to do, to help these linemen out is, all right, you got to throw the running back in there. Yeah. He's got to throw some blocks. Tight ends have got a chip block. Just give them that 1 to 2 seconds where you just knock somebody.
And it doesn't take much.
And he caught a lot of passes off of that where he would just come in, chip 4 seconds, scoot out.
He didn't have that great of a day yesterday, but I think just in all the elements, it's just unfortunately it's going to happen sometimes. Right. And that's even going back to the run game. It doesn't, it's to carry on is learning that position still. But like you said, with the blocking from the tight ends, it's just that 1 little 2-second thing, and that's maybe staying patient, waiting for something to open up. I think they need to go to just using a normal, true running back
for sure.
I mean.
We don't even use Juju at all anymore.
He's just, I don't know. It's just, he's not a true, he's just so.
We need to play, Anderson needs to be our true back. Yeah. He looks good when he's in there. He runs hard.
Yeah.
He has that running back vision because he's played running back his entire career. So, it's not a knock on Joyner, and Joyner definitely needs to be on the field a lot.
Yeah, he does.
Just not in that, line up behind the quarterback.
Like a true running back position. Yeah.
He needs to be, more of a slot guy. Kind
of like how we're using Doty.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's a dynamic athlete, and
like we want the ball in his hands for sure.
Yeah, like we even said last year with Jordan, you need him on the field because he creates plays.
He's just not. You're kind of setting him up for failure because you're asking him to do something that he's not naturally used to doing.
Yeah,
and like I said, that's not something that you're going to get in the off season. It's not something you're going to learn in the first few games how to see those holes.
Yeah,
and Anderson obviously can do that.
Yeah,
and so. Like I said, we got to make these adjustments. Some of it is, honoring Joyner because he's stuck with us through a lot.
Yeah, he has.
When he could have left, he's changed positions 3 times, doing whatever's asked of him. So, like I said, he needs to be on the field, but we're not helping him out either.
No. And, I was more impressed with our defensive line. Our defensive front 7. We got pressure on them.
We did.
We had some sacks. The linebackers played well. I really love Stone Blanton and Debo Williams. They're very good.
Stone had a very boneheaded play.
I don't even know what was going through. I don't even think he knew what was going through his head.
I think that
when that happened.
He's again young guy, and he's getting a lot of play time now. You're in an SEC environment.
Yeah,
you're just trying to make a play and kind of just lose your head there for a second.
I agree. Yeah,
but he's playing well. The defense as a whole, they played well. Like I said, they gave up. They have 1 bad quarter, and it really wasn't. Again, it wasn't a lot on them. We couldn't move the ball in the third quarter either. So then again, you're putting the defense out there a lot. Georgia obviously made the right adjustments at halftime.
And it wasn't even them just beating us down the field. It was mostly these quick screens, 2-3 yard passes. They basically took
what we did in the first half that worked offensively and replicated that in the second half.
And we kept giving it to them. When when DBs are giving, 12 yards off the line,
right?
Take it, and then, but we couldn't do much with it after that because, like I said, our offense couldn't keep the defense off the field for that third quarter.
Yeah, it all boiled down to that 1 quarter where Georgia made the right adjustments.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they are the more experienced team.
They are, yeah.
I think they're the more experienced coaching staff as well. Yeah. You know, not to say that our coaching staff isn't good, but you got new pieces in there, and they're still trying to work, learn how to work together in game situations.
Yeah. And I know Georgia, their running back room was pretty hurt, but they did have a rusher that had over 100 yards of offense. We made adjustments in the second half. Unfortunately, it was just a little too late.
Right.
It took us to the fourth quarter to adjust, to make adjustments.
Yeah. And you just can't, once you give a team like Georgia any kind of, not necessarily motivation, but, once they get rolling, it's going to be hard to transition and stop them. We did, but like you said, it was just a little too late, and then we just couldn't do anything offensively.
Georgia did what good teams are supposed to do. Right. They found a way to win, even though they weren't having their best day.
Right. At the end of the day, though, it's always tough to say, you feel good after a loss. But I do feel more positive about the season moving forward. I think that there was a lot of things that we looked – the things that I was most concerned about, line play, defensive play, it looked better yesterday. Again, it's just still that one thing that's holding us back is the running game.
Yeah. And, hopefully they figure it out. And I think – hopefully the offensive staff has realized, maybe it's time to make an adjustment.
Yeah. Because if we don't, it's going to be what holds us back.
Yeah. Especially when the East is not as strong this year.
If you pull that win out yesterday, South Carolina has a good chance to try and win the East.
And we'll talk about more of this later, but like I said, the SEC East is wide open. Outside of Georgia.
Yeah, especially, Tennessee losing to Florida yesterday.
Missouri winning. Missouri's 3-0. So, Clemson.
Well, and South Carolina will take on Mississippi State next week, so I'm not really sure what to think about that game. Mississippi State's 2-1, but
they didn't look.
I think they got blown out yesterday, didn't they?
They got beat 41-14 by Mississippi State.
By LSU.
LSU. Let's see here.
It's a home game for the FBI is showing, a 60% chance for the Gamecocks to win.
If we played like we did yesterday, I think we should beat Mississippi State pretty easily. Like I said, they were 2-0 going into the game yesterday, but they played Southeast Louisiana week 1, and then they beat Arizona 31-24 week 2. Let's see. Mississippi State gave up over, LSU had a receiver had over 230 yards receiving. So clearly, it's either, we overreacted a little bit with LSU losing to Florida State,
right?
Or Mississippi State's just not that good. But I think we win this game. It's a night game at Williams-Brice, which is a tough environment to play in.
They're going to get in that film room probably today and take a lot of positives out of that Georgia game. If you can get any semblance of a running game, pair that with what we're already doing. Looking at our schedule, especially after the way Tennessee looked, you could make a good run here and pull out a lot of wins. That here we go. 2 weeks ago, honestly, after North Carolina, we looked so bad. I didn't see many wins.
Yeah,
even though we lost yesterday, I see a lot of positives moving forward. That makes me more hopeful of pulling some wins out. And like you said, these teams, they're not as formidable as you would have thought. Coming into the year, like Tennessee. They're ranked 11th. You would think, okay, well they're on their way back up, and then they lose to Florida yesterday. They just don't.
The Tennessee hype was good for one season. I think people are realizing Joe Milton's not a good quarterback. Yeah. He's been in college 5 years, and this is his first year starting. There's a reason why he transferred from Michigan. And there's a reason why. Hendon Hooker was just a generational talent there. I think we win. We've got Mississippi State next weekend. Then we travel to Tennessee.
Yep.
We've got a bye week. Then we've got Florida, which I can't get a good read on Florida.
You really can't get a good read on Tennessee either because you didn't think Florida was that good coming in, and then they beat Tennessee, and it's, all right, was Tennessee just not that good, or is Florida actually, or
I think it's a combination of both. I think it's a little bit of both, and I think it was a game Billy Napier needed to win.
Yeah,
because this is his second season, but he's already on the hot seat in Gainesville.
Yeah, if South Carolina can replicate that first half, every game, consistently for the rest of the year, they're going to pick up a lot of wins. This year.
I agree. I still think we're a 5 to 7 win team.
6 to 7 wins is where we should be in a year 3. Again, year 1 and 2 were overachievements. Where you should be in this, rebuild is right at 6 to 7 wins.
I agree.
If you get to that again this year, you're doing what you should be. You're on track for where you should be, for Beamer and, his coaching staff, especially, like you said, with the talent that the young guys that we're playing right now, they're showing, why we recruited them.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
then again, you have the best class that he's signed so far is coming up, with this coming up class.
Yeah.
So you're going to bring all those guys in. You're finally starting to get into guys that you want to have on the team.
Yeah.
Again, 6 to 7 wins is a very good year.
Yeah.
People want more, obviously,
Yeah.
but you got to keep everything in mind of
if there's one thing
where
about
we're truly at.
There's one thing I'll say about our fan base outside of what you see on Twitter. We're a pretty patient fan base.
Yeah.
And like I said, we can see the thing with the Muschamp era is like we were patient with him, but you want to see improvement. We didn't improve under him. And you can see improvement. I saw a tweet by Brad Crawford with 24/7 Sports. Going into yesterday, South Carolina was 2-6 in SEC road games under Shane Beamer and has been abysmal in the first half of those defeats. In 6 losses, we were outscored 157-42 at halftime. Clearly, but that has been a theme under the past two coaches where these big games, we would always just come out flat. We would always hear, we have to do better as coaches.
Right.
Well, hopefully it's kind of turned for us.
Yeah, yesterday they played well. I think we coached well for the most part. We did make some adjustments a little too late, like I said, in the third quarter. But again, at the end of the day, Georgia is just more experienced.
Yeah.
They have more depth, and that's really what got us. It wasn't our talent level, or our coaching. Again, you can pick one or two things here and there, of course, and that's what the coaching staff's going to do this week. Just improve on, find those things that you didn't do good, improve on that, build on the things that you did, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You want to talk some Clemson football?
Let's move on to Clemson.
That's it. That was talking Clemson.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
We talked Clemson.
See you next week. See you next week.
No, 48-14. They took on Florida Atlantic. That's what they should have done.
Yeah. This was a game that Clemson won big the way they were supposed to.
Yeah.
I like I said, I don't think any Clemson fans were really nervous about this game. No. But again, you just you're always a little concerned with the way their first 2 games have been. Yeah. But they came out. Defense looked good. Had a couple. I know they had a few interceptions as a team. I think a pick 6, maybe. So
they ran the ball well. Klubnik, he threw the ball well. I think that this was one of those games where just from start to finish they were able to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Riley was able to kind of work on their offense a little bit more and the things that they want to do. So again, this was a game where Clemson should have come out and blown them out, and they came out and blew them out. Yeah,
and it's kind of like what you've seen from Clemson the past couple of years. Their defense dominated, and then their offense can take up off that. Because if you look at the stat line for Clemson's offense, like there's really nothing that sticks out in terms of Will Shipley rushed for 200 yards.
Right.
Klubnik threw for 400 yards. He did have 3 touchdown passes, but it was only 169 yards passing, which is okay. I mean, clearly, their defense put them in positions where they didn't have to drive all the way down the field.
Right, exactly.
It was just a clear, comfortable win. I know I did see something, and if any Clemson fans want to hop in the comments and maybe clarify a couple of things, I know there was an issue with Will Shipley and C.J. Spiller, the running backs coach. I don't know what happened, but it was like a goal line offense for Clemson. Klubnik handed the ball to Shipley. He didn't score, but he got down to the 1-yard line, got taken out. And then I don't know what was being said. I don't know what transpired. Clearly, I think it's just a gamesman thing where he doesn't want to be taken out of the game, but he clearly wasn't happy about it.
Honestly, I think that he's starting to feel the way that some of the fans are, is that he's supposed to be the feature back.
Yeah.
And sometimes they get to, they have a tendency to not use him the way that most people, and, myself included, I think that they don't use him the way that, they should all the time.
But, I mean, his backup's pretty dang good.
Yeah,
Phil Moffitt's really good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Shipley's stat line was 10 rushes, 38 yards, no touchdowns, 2 receptions, 7 yards. But, again, this wasn't a game where, Clemson needed to have these gigantic games from their playmakers.
They just needed to go out there, build on something, because they didn't, like I said, last week against Charleston Southern. The first half, they didn't look great. They looked good. They looked like they should in the second half. And so they needed a game where they looked like they should for 4 quarters, especially I mean, they've got a big one this week. Playing Florida State. It's
Florida State didn't look good yesterday either.
They didn't. I mean, they barely squeaked that win out.
They should have lost. They should have lost Boston College. But again, this was a solid win for Clemson. This was a game they were supposed to win on paper, and there was no questions about it. Like, they dominated from the first whistle.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to see as a Clemson fan.
Right. What they don't want to see this week is them losing, because they'll put somebody on the hot seat quick if Clemson loses this game. Because Clemson fans still view themselves as a top 5 team, and you're not even ranked.
Yeah, and I mean, and I like I said in the preseason, it's still Clemson's conference until they get dethroned.
To say that, I think that I would almost be willing to bet that they put them back in the rankings this week, especially.
I don't think they will.
To bill it, for Florida State as getting a ranked win. I could very well see them putting Clemson back in.
From what I've seen so far,
which I'm not even sure what top 25 team. There was a few that lost.
But I think Missouri's kind of crept in.
Yeah.
I feel more comfortable if I was a Clemson fan. I would be more comfortable about next week's game than I felt the previous week.
Yeah.
Because Florida State looked human. I think Jordan Travis got hurt in that game. It's his left shoulder, I believe. So uncertainty about him.
Yeah, Florida State definitely looked beatable yesterday. Clemson looked better, looking like they should. So they definitely should feel a lot more comfortable coming in this game. Then, like you said, watching them play against Charleston Southern and the way that Florida State was playing at the time, you almost check that off as, this is going to be a blowout.
Yeah, and I mean, Florida State's game against Boston College yesterday, it was the red bandana game. It's about the guy with 9/11 in the World Trade Center. Yep. So I feel like that's always a game Boston College is just going to play hard for. Yep. So maybe that was it. It was a one-off thing for Boston College. Maybe it was a one-off thing for Florida State. But again, this game next week in Clemson, Florida State is a preview, in my opinion, for the ACC championship game.
Yeah, and also for Florida State, like I said, they didn't look well yesterday, but I think that they always view Clemson here after most recently since Clemson went on their run the last decade or so, and Florida State was kind of down.
Yeah.
They're going to want to, even though Clemson's not ranked, or even if they do come in at like 25th or something like that, they're still going to take this game, not lightly, because they want to beat Clemson.
It's a crime this game's at noon.
Yeah, that's
I get TV purposes, I guess.
To both teams, but I mean, if Clemson was ranked still, if they're top 25, top 15, 10, this is a night game all day long.
I don't know. I guess they're just trying to change up the way they may do their primetime games, where like they want to have a good game, like a good slate all throughout the day.
Right. The kind of way that the Big Ten does it with their big noon. Their big game is the the 12 o'clock game. So I can see that. And it's also like, all right, who else is playing this week? They're already slated for 3:30, 7:30. Let's not compete against that.
Yeah.
Throw this game on at 12 o'clock. Give the people something good to watch. Right off the bat.
What's your prediction?
Florida State wins by 14.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think Clemson wins it.
And I hope that Jaheim Bell has a great game, and then after that, no more great games.
Yeah. I don't know. I just have a funny feeling about Florida State, I guess. I don't know.
They didn't look great yesterday.
That game, at least Duke's loss was against, Clemson's loss was against Duke.
Right.
Florida State's still undefeated, but that, I don't know. Again, that was maybe it's just a one-off thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Clemson's going to come out pretty motivated. I think they're pretty pissed off.
Yeah.
About like some of the and again, that's going back to what we said about Kirby Smart. I think Dabo is a very good person that's a good motivator for his team and can pick little things out to motivate his players.
But anything that he comes up with right now is probably justified for him to use, because, all right, you aren't ranked anymore. Yeah. You're not, considered to be the cream of the crop in the ACC right now. So anything that Dabo uses is probably justified in him saying.
And I think a lot of people have him as like probably the third best team behind Florida State and North Carolina.
And then you would have to throw Duke ahead of him. I mean, Duke's still undefeated.
Yeah.
I mean, they're winning convincing games. I mean,
they did beat Northwestern yesterday.
But they did it the way that they should.
Yeah, exactly.
They won handle it. So Duke is definitely looking better. Yeah, I mean, Clemson could be the third or fourth best team in the ACC right now. They need to come out and win this game.
Yeah, and it's going to start with their defense. It's like we said in previous episodes where it's not, where they're always a dominant offense and a dominant defense. I think it's middle of the pack offense with a great defense.
Yeah.
So if their defense can stop Florida State and put their offense in good positions and in good field position, I think Clemson wins this game.
I think that they're going to put it again a lot on Klubnik. And I just don't think he's that guy.
At least he hasn't shown us. He did good in the ACC championship game, but he hasn't shown us yet.
Right.
And this could be a good officially coming out party for him, where he could arrive. Or I think you'll know more about what he'll be.
If he doesn't have a good game, Clemson fans will probably be calling for him to be replaced.
I guess. I don't know. I think you have to be patient with him because he's still, like I said, he's a sophomore.
As an outsider looking in, you do. But they're so used to having that elite quarterback, and then now for like the last 2 or 3, they haven't had it, and they're getting fed up with that.
I saw something on Twitter last night, and I didn't screenshot it or anything, but somebody was asking about like all these freshman receivers that they got, and somebody asked them, or I think somebody chimed in and said, well, maybe they're trying to treat it as like a redshirt year. And they're like, those days are over with. Yeah. There's no more redshirt years.
Right.
It's either you're playing or you're transferring.
Right.
So it's like I get concerned from that standpoint from just a college fan where it's like, you do get concerned when these players come in and they don't play right away. They're probably just going to leave.
And that's my concern with Harbor right now is like
I don't think he's going to transfer.
I think that he's still learning the position.
Because it's not like he's going to go to an Oregon.
Right.
I mean, he probably would for track purposes, but it's not like he's going to get immediate playing time. Like, if he's not ready to play on that side of the ball, it's just not – he's not ready to play.
I think he's got to be athletic enough that, let's get him some game reps because you can do as much as you want at practice, but until you do it in a game, you don't know truly – what you have. So even if he's looking good in practice, get him out there. Let's see it in the game. And, at least if he goes out there and sees like, okay, I did not do this well, he knows that he's got to improve, that he's got to do certain things at practice to be able to get on the field.
Yeah.
But kids these days, man, they want to be on the field now.
But I guess the one downside of that is we don't really have many games where you can kind of tinker and experiment.
Right.
I mean, it's just the fact that we've got the third. They showed it on the graphic at CBS yesterday. We have the third toughest schedule in the country.
Right.
We don't have the luxury of like, and it sucks because he was such a highly touted recruit. You want to get him in there and play, but it's like we have very minimal opportunities to use like a learning experience. Yeah. It was perfect for Furman last week because
we didn't do it.
I mean, he got in there and played.
Yeah, a little bit,
But, I mean, up until halftime, it was kind of an iffy game.
Yeah.
So we just don't really have the many opportunities some of these other teams do to, like, okay, they have.
Well, with Juice out, we might just have to bite the bullet and get out there because we need some dynamic players on the field.
Credit to Omega Blake.
Yeah.
Davis.
We've had a lot of guys pick up the slack for, in the receiving game.
We have the options at the receiver position and the tight end position. I'm not worried about that, but I just don't want to put them out there just to put them out there just to keep them happy. It's just I don't think
not
that
really keep him happy.
Anybody.
I think that again, even if it's 1 to 2 plays where you get him out there just so that he's getting those game reps, that's only going to benefit him and the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can do as much as you want in practice, but until you get out there and everybody's going 100%.
Yeah.
Because as much as you go hard at practice, nobody's going 100%.
Yeah.
They're just not.
Because you don't want to hurt yourself.
Exactly. So we got to get them out there.
But I've got Clemson and Carolina both winning next week.
I got Carolina winning, and I got Florida State winning by 48.
In the first half.
Yeah.
What's your – I know this was a hot topic on Twitter this morning because the Colorado State game ended pretty late last night.
Yeah, I didn't
catch
that.
What's your take on fans storming the field?
I don't mind it.
Let me preface this by saying
every game
you're over 3 touchdown favorite against a team.
Right.
And you win in double overtime.
No.
Do you think they should be storming the field?
No. When they stormed the field, when Colorado won that first game at home, sure.
Yeah.
It's, the fan base is excited, but at this point, we can't just storm the field every game.
Yeah. We can't be Clemson.
Right.
Meet at the Paw, whatever they want to label it as.
Well, for one thing, it's kind of dangerous. It's risky and dangerous for the players.
Because a lot of these fans will interact with the opposing team's players.
The opposing teams, your own, just being excited, grabbing on somebody. You pull on someone, a little too hard, they blow out a knee.
I think it just if you do it every game, I think it just ruins the.
It takes away from it whenever it's a big game and a big win, and you storm the field, and everybody's like, all right, well, we just did that last week.
Yeah, it becomes like a normal thing. Just like for Clemson, they usually go on the field after every game, like it's just another thing.
Yeah,
where it's like at least with the SEC, like you get fined $1 million.
Yeah,
and like I know these kids want to have fun and this and that, but it's like okay, like. Yeah, you were supposed to win this game pretty easily. Like if you beat the number 1 team in the country and you beat them in dominating fashion, like when we beat Tennessee last year, I get it. Right. I get it. But if if we're storming the field after we beat Jacksonville State in November, that's not a good look for.
No, not at all.
It's not where you want to be. But I was very surprised. Like I've kind of bought into the Deion hype train a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I guess his swagger, but. You have to be able to. You have to be able to back it up when you're bringing out, rappers to rap when you're walking out. So I love that. But if you're going to do all that, you have to back it up and win. And I mean, honestly, I didn't think they were going to win. I mean, I felt
they were down bad.
I tried to stay up to watch it last night, but I fell asleep. They were losing. I woke up and they were going into overtime.
Yeah,
and
they're winning. So he's backing it up. I think a lot of it too is like. People are buying into it, but also when you have like the Colorado State coach coming out saying, wearing sunglasses and stuff at a press conference, like
talking about giving
what does it matter,
bulletin board material.
Exactly.
That's like you could say Colorado stretch for the game against Nebraska where he tried to throw it as like they're disrespecting us by walking on our logo on the 50-yard line.
Right.
What Jay Norvell said about it, that's something you can actually take to your team and say, look, listen to what he's saying. Look what he's talking about us like. And, I mean, credit to Colorado State. They played good.
Yeah.
Should have won.
They should have.
And I think there was a dirty hit by the safety for Colorado State on Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I
he ended up having to go to the hospital.
Jay Billis tweeted, if this was basketball, that would have been a flagrant 2, an ejection.
Yeah.
Like, why do we not have the same thing for college football, because that was dirty.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a dirty hit.
And it sucks because like I think you look at it from the standpoint of like football is a violent sport. But again, when you have plays like that, that's egregious, and you knew what he was doing.
Right.
I think because like if you do something like that in the NFL, like I know there's 2 different. I'm pretty positive, but it's like I think sometimes they can be ejected for stuff like that. And people were throwing targeting like that. That wasn't a targeting hit.
No, that was just a dirty hit.
For the definition they have of targeting. No, that was a targeted hit.
Right.
Like that
it was a
knew
dirty
what he
hit
was doing.
Is what it was.
He ended up going to the hospital like he couldn't play, and he's a dynamic playmaker for Florida State. Like Colorado State was doing very good of getting in the players' heads because there's a clip of Shedeur Sanders. I don't know if he poked him in the eye, but like he put his fingers in his face mask.
Yeah.
For a D lineman for Colorado State. So
here's the thing: you can't have your head coach coming out saying that a coach is disrespectful by wearing sunglasses, and then you have your players out there just throwing dirty hits and stuff.
Yeah, and I don't think he was telling them to do that.
No, not for sure. But I mean, you have control of your team. Like you, if that's you and you want to respect the game, you get him out of there. Then if that's how he's playing,
it was getting pretty chippy. I don't know if you watched any of the game.
No, I've seen clips on
but
Twitter.
It was getting pretty chippy there for a little bit, and kind of I guess credit to the referees for kind of getting it under control, or because it happened in the first half, or maybe it's the coaching staff talking. Right. But yeah, Colorado's got 2. They got Oregon away this weekend. They got USC at home.
You about to find
next
out
weekend.
if they're really what everybody thinks they are.
And I mean, honestly, they didn't look that good up until when they tied it up.
I think that they're finally about to face some competition here.
Yeah,
and it's going to bring them down a little.
Yeah, because I mean, TCU, you could say what you want. They're not what they were last year. No. You could say they were overrated last year.
They still got to the national championship.
Yeah, they still did.
Whatever.
You can't ignore what they did. That was a great offensive shootout against TCU. Nebraska's just an overrated team. They're not good at all.
Right.
Colorado State, they were favored by over 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So I think they'll kind of get their come to down moment, or we'll find out more about them this week
if
or
they
over
come
the next
out
2 weeks.
And they beat if they win the next 2 weeks, you can say, all right, Colorado's for real.
Yeah.
And you're going to have games, like a Colorado State when you should, kind of like South Carolina and Georgia where Georgia should have beat us handily but didn't. You're going to have those kind of games.
Yeah.
You're going to find out what Colorado's about this week.
I agree. It's going to be another fun week of football. We got some – let's see if we got any good matchups coming up next week.
I think that Oregon handles Colorado pretty easily, though.
Yeah. I mean, I
want to see Colorado continue to be successful because it's only building college football because everybody loves it here in the South. But to have a program like that and to be successful on the West Coast, that's only going to make college football better because really and truly, once you kind of get past, the Midwest, they follow it, but it ain't – nobody's going and, for Southern Cal games like they do an SEC team or an ACC team. But to have a program like that, out there just making waves, just doing things different. They're doing – I even
saw something where people were like, it was like a conspiracy theory that Colorado State's coach made those comments to try to drum up the attention to get people to watch the game. 10 o'clock. That's tough to stay up that late.
I already knew from the jump I wasn't.
I watched it. I watched it. It was a good. Up until I fell asleep, I tried to make it. But it's football season's in full swing.
It is. Again, South Carolina, Mississippi State. It's a night game. I think South Carolina wins. Clemson, Florida State, 12 o'clock.
ABC.
I think Florida State wins that one.
I'm still sticking with Clemson. I don't know why. I guess it's just my better judgment, I guess. I don't know.
We'll be back next week to recap those games. Hopefully 2 good games. Hopefully Florida State blows Clemson out. And hopefully South Carolina blows out Mississippi State.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if y'all like us to talk about anything else.
Yeah.
As y'all show, we're only doing this for some fun.
Yeah.
So anything y'all want to see, let us know. We'll see y'all next week.
See you next week.